Hello, everyone, and welcome to our latest webinar, Scaling Your E-commerce Brand on WooCommerce. We're really going to be diving into optimizing e-commerce conversion rates, getting more from the channels that you're driving, the traffic that you're driving to your website, the sessions, the users. Today with me, I have Angelos from Social Mind, who is, well, I'll let you, Angelos, do a proper introduction to Social Mind, but a WooCommerce developer among many other services that you guys provide. But we'll be diving into just some of the things that they see working with clients when it comes to conversion rate optimization. And I come from a world of paid ads, and years ago, it was just, you just keep throwing money at ads and it's great. But that was when ads were 25 cents. Ads are not that cheap anymore. So that conversion optimization is really, really important. And as well as, I think, through the lens of an e-commerce platform like WooCommerce, where everybody's always talking about Shopify, Shopify, Shopify. I think WooCommerce has as many live storefronts as Shopify does, tends to go a little bit under the radar. And so that was one of the things that I thought was really interesting talking with Angelos. So Angelos, I'll welcome you to the stage. Maybe to start out, if you'd like to share a little bit about your background, your role, how you got into what you're doing now, and a better introduction to Social Mind and what you guys really focus on.
Okay. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you for the invitation, first of all. Okay, I'm Angelos Sinadakis. Ryan already told you so. So I'm working on Social Mind and digital agency. We've been active actually since 2014. So it's more like 12 to 13 years, but we've been to web development, WordPress, and WooCommerce even before that. WooCommerce not that much, but WordPress since 2006 or something. And we are actually focusing heavily on WordPress and WooCommerce development, along with performance-driven digital marketing. So what makes our approach slightly different is that we try to combine development and marketing very closely. So when we look at an e-commerce store, we don't just see design or traffic or something like this. We take a look at the full journey. How we acquire new users, how is the user experience, what are we doing with conversions, what are we doing with the retentions, how we get people back to the shop to buy or something like this. So nowadays, conversion rate optimization or CRO, it's actually a big part. It's what you also said in the introduction that, okay, in the past we just put it more money into the ads, but this is not the case today. And the thing is that, okay, since we put some money into the ads and we have some traffic into our website or into our e-commerce store, then how can we get the maximum out of it? It's not just that we brought people there, but help them convert actually and buy from us.
Yeah, and so Social Mind, so you're based in Greece. If folks have detected your accent. You guys work with what is your sort of client base in terms of like across Europe, working with folks in the US? What does that sort of mix look like, just out of curiosity?
Mm-hmm.
Because there are some different, even sort of user behavioral challenges working out of Europe versus working in the US in terms of just cookies and
Of course.
GDPR and other things like that. But
Mainly we work with clients around Europe, so this is the biggest part of our clients. We had some fewer across the Atlantic, but not that much and not that many. And what you say, it's true that in Europe, the consumer behavior might be a bit different than in the States or maybe in different parts of the world. GDPR is one thing. We're going to speak a bit more about it later because it is one of the factors that it's really challenging to have accurate data nowadays. And also, even the way that people decide what to buy, from where to buy, and how much to pay for a product, it's a bit different from what we see. And I don't have the actual stats, but I think that maybe WooCommerce is a bit have a greater market share here than Shopify. Shopify is not that big as I hear that it is in the US.
Yeah, it's definitely the store, right? Oh, you're making an e-commerce store. They make it really, really easy to spin up a store. But I think people definitely underestimate how many folks are leveraging WordPress and WooCommerce and that ecosystem itself. I think a good sort of transition in, just like to the meat of the conversation. We at Reversion, we're an affiliate tracking tool. One of the things that we're even trying to do is arm our merchants and brands with data beyond just clicks and conversions, but like what else is happening in the funnel? Are you seeing people click, add to cart, get to the checkout page, and then abandon? Because that's a little bit of a different problem than just seeing clicks and no conversions. You get a little bit more context. But I think you guys approach it a bit more holistically. Like how should brands or merchants think about conversion rate optimization at a higher level, or like a holistic business level? How do you diagnose that? Like, what are the things that you say, like, this is how you really need to be treating it? Because so often it's just, if it's a paid ad thing, like you just pick the ad that has a higher conversion rate. Is it the ad or like the user behavior? Like it's a little bit difficult, but how do you think about that when you're trying to diagnose conversion rate problems?
Actually, what we do when we work with a new client, there are some specific numbers that we are checking first. They're not telling the whole truth, but these are some very good indicators to start with. I mean, we expect that an e-commerce store should have around 3.3% of conversion rate. So if you have something around this, then okay, it's pretty much okay for the moment. Of course, there are many improvements that we can do, but in general, a lot of things are working good. If it is less than 3.3%, then we have to check about it. And here's a rule that we have that if the conversion rate is between 1 and 3.3%, then okay, there are a lot of things that we can do and really help to fix this percentage and help go more towards to 3.3%. But if the percentage of conversion rate is less than 1%, then probably there are bigger problems in the company or in the client than the store itself. Maybe it's about the products, about the prices, about the general feeling of the company or whatever. But so if it is less than 1%, then this is a red flag. If it is between 1 and 3.3%, then we can do some work. Of course, 3.3 is just a number. It's an average of the conversion rates that we have seen around there, and there are also statistics that back this up. But of course, it's not. It should not be the same for everybody. I mean, it depends on what we do, on what the store sells, on the market, on the competition, and so on, and even to other factors like if the e-commerce store has also physical stores, then people might see the product online, but then go to buy it physically. So this is still conversion, but you cannot really track it online. So you might expect a less conversion rate in these cases. So this is the first indication. But after that, we need to see, okay, why people do not convert. What is the problem? Is it the products? Is it the payment methods? Is the delivery processes that we offer? What is the main issue? And for this, we have three other indicators that we are checking actually. So what we do is we check the add to cart rate. This is how many people are into our store and how many actually added a product on their cart. And this should be around 11%. If it is more, then this is great. If it is less, then we have to do something about it. Then there is the process to check out, the percentage. I mean, how many people added something on their cart and then actually started the checkout process. The checkout process is where they fill their details, their name, emails, address, and so on. So this should be around 55%. This is what we see. So if it is less than 55, then we're okay. If it is less than 55, if it is more, then we're okay. If it is less, then we have to work on it. And the final thing is the percentage that actually place an order. from those that started the checkout process, we estimate that 84% of them should actually finish and the procedure and put the order. So if it is more than 84%, then great. If it is less, then we have to do something about it. So these are the four main things that we check to start getting an indication of how this store is working, and where actually we need to change things or to do something different, maybe put some more information or whatever in order to help them rise the conversion rate percentage.
So we actually haven't chatted this much in detail about this, but I think that like my initial thought when you hear percentages coming from a performance marketing agency world is clients would always say like, I want to be this percentage. We would say, you have to balance like how much traffic there actually is and like what is the source and the channel of that traffic. But I do like that idea of funnel rates deeper in the funnel, right? You might have a ton of organic traffic that's just coming through because you have a generic brand name and you don't mind it, right? But it's not going to drive your conversion rate up because it might be like incidental traffic. And so then you might look a little bit deeper at, well, when they're starting to take action, what's happening here? Is there a threshold where you guys start to look at like, well, what is like, where is the traffic coming from? And we're thinking about these rates, or like source wise, or how much of it might be branded versus like completely unbranded, or paid versus like anything earned?
Of course, if it's some branded organic searches, then we should expect higher percentages of conversion rate and so on. If it's not branded and it's generic, of course, it should be less. What we are actually looking is the general average. I mean that includes both cases. Of course, this depends on what we are actually doing and what we are actually selling and how. For example, we have a client that works on technology, sells laptops and mobile phones and that kind of stuff. A lot of traffic. It's not to buy. It's just to find information for the latest smartphone model or whatever. So also there are products that are more expensive. So maybe you have to think about it, search into a different stores, maybe take a week or something to finish this purchase. Maybe come back 2, 3, 4 times before you actually submit your orders. So it really depends on what we sell and how it's designed the consumer's journey from the concept idea, from they thought that they want to buy a product until they actually buy it. So we have to take everything under consideration.
Maybe jumping a little bit ahead, what do you use? Like heat mapping, like is there a process that you would recommend for marketers of like, hey, if you're even doing a self diagnosis of like what's going on, use Hotjar and like let's like get some session replays and like see what the activity is? Or is it sufficient to just use funnels and GA4? Like how do you guys typically do it so that you can reliably sort of measure what's happening and make a decision?
Mainly we focus on GA4 funnels, and we set up some customized ones that really help us because we have the data that we actually want to look. We use Hotjar, as since you mentioned it, that we can focus on where people are seeing when they click and what is where they stand for the most part during their sessions or during their visits on the website. But apart from that, we have not a procedure. Let's say we have a list of 230 actually checkpoints that we look every time. Of course, some are generic, some are very easy to do, but some of that are they only matter on some specific sectors and so on. So you don't actually have to check all the 231 of them, but those that are actually useful or to the point for each case. And these checkpoints are for homepage, are for category pages, are for product pages, for cart, for checkout, for the thank you page. and also are some general ones. So if someone goes through all these checkpoints, then he can totally find some places of some room for improvement into the e-commerce store. And such checkpoints might be, for example, if the search engine actually works, and if it works like with synonyms or not, with if somebody makes minor mistakes, you skip a letter while typing or something like this. And for example, if the thank you page, there are some upselling propositions, some upselling suggestions or so on. If in the checkout process we have all the different payment methods that somebody would expect, maybe they want to pay with Apple Pay or with Google Pay, and we don't provide this. And this might be a friction point, and they leave because of this. So we go through these 230 checkpoints, and on top of that, we also do heat maps, not that much, but we do, and also the customized funnels on GA4. All this data, it's a ton of data, so you cannot
Yeah.
really do, just start one by one. It will take months. But some of these are very quick wins. Some of them are, it might be for stage 2 or stage 3, and you can work on them later in the process. What we have found recently is that one of the most important factors are actually product descriptions. So product descriptions, if they include keywords, if they are very detailed, if someone can read them and actually understand what he's buying, this is very important, and this is a very difficult part to do right, because if you have like 1,000 products, it is difficult to have a very detailed description for each one of them, custom made, curated around your company and so on. Not just a generic one that you took from the vendor and copy pasted, and this is it. Um, Images are very important, product images and so on. So this is the list that we do go one by one, and we'll try to see what we can do better in each one of these.
Are we at a point now where you can take some of these sort of like known processes? Hey, we're collecting data here. This is what we're looking for. We're focusing even use some of the AI tools. Be like, hey, here's sort of the confines of what I'm trying to do. Can you help me spot like a red flag I might not be able to uncover immediately? Here are some like the benchmarks I'm looking at, or are we still a little bit of a ways away from that? Where do you stand on like, hey, we're able to adopt AI to something like co-work to just, here's what we're trying to look for, here's what we know works, help surface some of this stuff to speed up, because we can't go through the list, but the concern would be maybe there's something that's there that isn't always there, but actually is pretty critical, that we might just gloss over.
AI really helped us on the content part in this procedure. I mean, how we can even do it better, and if you read the text, then you might find it very instructful and very useful and very to the point. But if you give it to the AI, it can even enhance it even more. So this is a part that really helped us, because we thought that we were doing a good job, but with this we did even better. What actually helped us in many cases, but we haven't found yet a way to do this with AI to save some time or maybe unlock some other features, is using Hotjar, that we saw what actually the people are doing, not only heat maps, but the actual recordings of their visits into the e-commerce store. And I remember a case a couple of months ago that a lot of people were abandoning their carts because there was a misunderstanding on the UI, where they should choose to buy as a guest or to log in into the website and use their users. So it wasn't very clear at that point, and people thought that they really need to have an account. So some of them tried to create one, then they get bored and they left the store, or maybe there was a little amount of people that were actually found where is the proceed as guest user to proceed. And this is where when we change this, then the conversion rate really got higher. So to do so, we saw like 30 or 40 different videos. Some of them are 1 minute, some might be more. Of course, rushing through it. Uh, we haven't yet found a way to use AI to see all this video and tell us, hey, look at this and this and this.
Yeah.
But if there would be, such a tool, it would be very, very useful. Yes.
Yeah, I think the challenge with like I love a good session replay. The challenge is like, sometimes people just latch on to one user session, and they're usually looking at it on like a desktop session, not a mobile session. Like there's so many factors, and sometimes
Yes,
using the aggregated anonymous data from GA4 can be useful because it removes that sort of like bias, sort of like, well, I saw that one person add the expensive item to cart and then they left. Now, again, if you can find that happen over and over and over again, it's a different story. But I like the idea of using using events and funnels to sort of shine a light on some of the things that are happening, and then you can always go a little bit deeper with like, okay, so now I want to look at some of these sessions. I can look at the heat maps for these sessions, or I can look at the screen recordings for these sessions and figure out like, is this what I think that's happening? Is my hypothesis accurate? Maybe sort of shifting from that a little bit. What do you normally see like people just tend to miss when approaching conversion rate optimization? I think when you talked about percentages and context, like that's super useful. And I think it's helpful to know like, hey, when it's outside of this range, like your problem is probably more of a product market fit pricing problem, like no amount of button colors and it's good to know that as an e-commerce brand, like, hey, invest over here. This is where your positioning is wrong. You're just too expensive. Your shipping terms are horrible. You only accept cash in the mail. Like you got to fix these things. There's no magic wand here. But what are other things people just tend to think like the template has it taken care of, or like it's already been solved, but actually no, it hasn't always been solved. Like you need to try to find these issues.
The other thing is that a lot of people don't actually know why they are selling. I mean, from where they get the traffic, what people are searching, and so on. And this used to be easy. Nowadays, it's a bit difficult. So to have a good attribution of the purchases of the conversions on the e-commerce store, it's very critical, and a lot of people are missing this. They say, okay, I see Google Analytics and I see maybe Google Ads or Meta Ads, and all these tools are reporting purchases, but this is not the actual truth. I mean, if you deep a bit deeper into the data, you'll see that we don't really know if what's working are Google Ads or are Meta Ads or TikTok or newsletters and so on. And this is very challenging because of how cookies work nowadays. And people say, okay, let's put this cookie consent banner and then we are done and we are set up, but this is just the step one. In order to do this correctly, we need to do a lot of things into a store, and this is very important because only if we have accurate data, then we can know where to invest more, or what we need to change, or what we works or doesn't work. Um, so these people think they know, but they actually don't know that there's a problem on their website. Other than this, they always blame, let's say, in quote marks, the technical part. okay, the website should be quicker, or it should be more, I don't know, modern, or the design should be more flexible, and in the mobile should be different or whatever. But uh, we have seen that many of the problems are not actually on the website itself, but it's more uh, product related. They don't have the right products. They are more expensive than the competition, or they are not offering so many different things than the competition, from means of payments, as we said before, or means of transportation, and so on. People don't actually look into this so much, and always they think that they got this right, and it's very interesting to see how they can miss this.
Yeah, when Google released their sort of like page speed insights testing
Mm.
uh, playground, it's like an obsessive compulsive thing to like I just need to look and fix this, but this, I mean, you can upload really big websites to that and go, well, they seem to be failing everything on the mobile front as well.
Mhm.
And so it's just more lens of, yeah, I mean, if it takes 10 seconds, sure, like you probably have a problem. But if it's you go to the site, white screen, then immediately it all loads, like
Mhm.
probably something you can move beyond because it's not that disruptive. It's much more about like what is like the logical disruption here that's occurring, and that's sort of what I'm gleaning from what you're saying.
Yes, people are getting obsessed over these numbers, and of course, it shouldn't load in 10 seconds. Okay, it should load in 1 or 2 seconds. But these numbers that the page speed test shows are just some indicators. If you run it 10 times, you get 10 different
Yeah,
numbers. Of course, they are pretty close, but you get the point. And some people are obsessed. Okay, we're in 65%. Let's go to 100, and then you are to 95%, and they still want to push to 100, because if you get this 5% that you miss, then it should get, I don't know, tons of sales or something, which is not true, because it's just a random number
yeah,
um, that has a point. It should get as high as possible, but this is not the defining factor of how good your store performs.
yeah. You don't get money for a high score
Yes.
necessarily. Now, if you did, maybe a little bit different. Angelos, what my sort of last question would be, I imagine you work with folks that sometimes are migrating from other things or from like custom carts or
Hmm.
anything else. And a lot of times in that migration process, it's just disruptive to the user. It's disruptive to all of the tracking that you have. Like there's going to be a leveling out of like, hey, we rolled out this new site. Like how much time for like migrations or for testing in general? Like how much time, what level of volume through to the site do you say like we need to give it this amount to really let the funnel go again, right? Like if you migrate from one cart to another cart, your conversion rates are going to look horrible
Hmm.
immediately because you're resetting all of the cookies and everything is just different. And uh, maybe in those cases, like you're looking at just the top line revenue, like we just need to make sure everything is sort of stable. People aren't just leaving the site. But how do you think about time for tests or time for, migration is not a test. Like once you do it, you're sort of committed to doing it for a little while. You can't just flip back to something else. But how do you guys think about time or traffic volume and measurement?
Mm. These are two different things. I mean, one is the time, and we usually uh, you can get all this data right. I mean, in a week or in a month. In a month, maybe, but still depends. So we usually have a, let's say, testing period, or an initial period of 3 months actually. So
Okay.
we expect that in 3 months we have uncovered maybe some bugs into the tracking or whatever, or see some patterns that we need to do different, and so on. Um, so we anticipate that in 3 months we have figured out everything like this, and actually fixed them, or made any changes that we recommend. Apart from that, time. alone, it's not very important if we don't have actual traffic volume. Because in the 3 months we have only like 10 visitors, then we don't have enough data to make educated guesses. So uh, we are looking to have at least 1,000 unique sessions within a period of, let's say, a month. But normally, if there is an existing store and they are running actually ads with a huge budget and so on, then it's easy to get this traffic. If we get to the 1,000, then we can have some real data that we can work on and optimize based on this. Of course, during the 3 periods, we don't expect just 1,000 sessions, but a lot more. But this is basic actually, that we know that we have enough data to decide on what works and what not on the website.
Okay. Do you recommend or do you see success in those sort of like full funnel tools that are trying to compile like this giant composite picture for a e-commerce brand that's like, hey, here's what all of these channels are doing. Here's like a singular attribution. This is working. This is not working, even though this looks like it is working. Do you find success with those? Is it just tricky to be over reliant on something like that? This is like a random off the cuff question, but I always see it. It seems super appealing, but it's always hard when you're taking credit from one thing and giving it to something else, discounting that this might be having any impact at all. It could, right? It could be having an impact. But what do you see working with brands and merchants and maybe even lead gen types of businesses?
No, the thing is that how you set up your data, it's always the biggest challenge. For these tools to work correctly, then you have to have a lot amount of data, and you should be sure that they work and they are right and so on. And usually, the nice thing of these tools are that they can combine data from different sources. Like one source might be the actual e-commerce store, but other sources might be the physical store if you gather data from there, from your ERP or from your newsletter tool, or if you combine all this data, then yes, you can extract some real values, and maybe you can see how small changes, for example, in prices, or if you offer to some people a coupon code for 5%, that doesn't really make a huge change, but it's something can change the final outcome, and actually people convert, and in other cases they wouldn't. I'm not really sure in the end if you didn't have all this big thing and you didn't put all this amount of time into making sure that all the data are correct and are synchronizing and so on, if the outcome would be so much different. I mean, if you have a really, you need to have a very big amount of traffic and of customers and so on to make a difference. I see the point. I mean, we checked it, we tried it in a store that it had it was on WooCommerce, and it had the ability to change the price, uh, maybe a bit up or a bit lower than the initial price, up to 5%, if I remember correctly, if it believed that this change of price could make the visitor buy actually the product. And it had some very nice results, but I'm not sure that this is always the case. Um, it's fun to see how small differences can make a huge, impact. Uh, but I feel that in the most cases, we're just, chasing ghosts that don't actually exist.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, Angelos, anything that we didn't cover that you thought, hey, this is from a optimization perspective, like especially for WooCommerce stores, but even anybody that's a merchant or a brand selling online, like this is a critical thing to keep in mind, or just a chief consideration, or anything that you would add before we wrap up today?
Actually, this is what I was thinking to mention, that okay, we talked about optimization on in the context of the WooCommerce, but this is not only about WooCommerce. Whatever cart somebody is using, Shopify, Magento, PrestaShop, or whatever, then the general idea is the same. For me, the most important part is that we have correct data. If the
Yeah.
data are correct, then we can make anything happen. We can take decisions, we can change our decisions, and so on. But the most important thing is to actually have correct data.
Do you guys have is that 230 plus that list, is that part of the process for auditing the data? Like, how do you audit data quality? Like, is it as simple as we're just using Tag Manager and seeing if things flow through or not? Or are there other things that you guys use? Or are there tools and widgets that are like, this is how you can just get a gut check on data quality?
Some of these checkpoints are actually referring to data, of
Okay.
course. Not all of them. There are some. The most important part from us is, okay, in general, the data work. I mean,
Yeah.
the data are gathered. If you go to Google Analytics, then there are data there. So we checked 3, 4 things that are very important for us, and especially that Google Ads have correct conversion value. So we have both conversions and conversion value correctly. Then we have Meta, that we still have that we check there that we have the same data counted correctly. And finally, we want that J4 that tracks the attribution correctly, because it's very normal, very common that both Google and Meta, they are tracking the same purchases from the e-commerce store. So you end up with 10 purchases, let's say, and you have 10 on Meta and 10 on Google, but they're actually the same, because in this whole customer journey, probably the user or the consumer went through Google and through Meta, through both channels. So what is important is that the main source of truth that we say that it's Google Analytics for, it's uses the correct attribution schema that suits us.
Awesome. Well, Angelos, thank you again for the time today. I really appreciate lots of great insight into optimization and just like things to think about, which I think our audience could really leverage. So definitely appreciate your insights. Thank you to everyone that joined today. We'll also be sharing this online. You can check the recording back if you weren't able to make it live. And with that, we'll wrap up and see everybody next time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.